Khanna. Let's now turn our attention to the big news story of the day from the African continent. Mutinous soldiers claim to have overthrown Niger's democratically elected president, announcing on state television late on Wednesday that they have deposed the government over the African country's deteriorating security. The soldiers said all institutions had been suspended and security forces were managing the situation. They urged external partners not to interfere. The announcement came after a day of uncertainty as members of Niger's presidential guard surrounded the presidential palace and detained President Mohammed Bazoum. It is not clear if the mutiny was supported by the other parts of the military and where the president was at the time of the announcement, or if in fact he had resigned. This is a result of the continuing degradation of the security situation, the bad economic and social governance. That is what Air Force Colonel Major Ahmed Abdulrahmane said in a video that was released. Seated at a table in front of 9 other officials, he said aerial and land borders were closed and a curfew was imposed until the situation stabilized. The group, which calls itself the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Country, said it remained committed to its engagements with the international and national communities. Earlier, a tweet from the account of Niger's presidency reported that members of the elite guard unit engaged in an anti-republican demonstration and unsuccessfully tried to obtain support from other security forces. It said Bazoum and his family were doing well, but that Niger's army and National Guard are ready to attack if those involved in the action did not back down. The commissions of the African Union and the Economic Community of West African States described the events as an effort to unseat Bazoum, who was elected president 2 years ago in the nation's first peaceful democratic transfer of power since its independence from France in 1960. Threats to Bazoum's leadership undermine the West's efforts to stabilize Africa's Sahel region, which has been overrun with coups in recent years. Mali and Burkina Faso have had 4 coups since 2020, and both are being overrun by extremists linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Niger in March this year, seeking to strengthen ties with the country where extremists have carried out attacks on civilians and military personnel. But the overall security situation was not as dire as in neighboring countries. Now, during a stop in New Zealand on Thursday, Antony Blinken repeated the U.S. condemnation of the mutiny against Niger's president and said his team was in close contact with officials in France and Africa. Blinken added that he had spoken with Bazoum on Wednesday, saying that he had made it clear that we strongly support him as the democratically elected president of the country. Analysts say the mutiny is a nightmare scenario for Western powers who'd bet on Bazoum and Niger as new security anchor for the Sahel region. Before the announcement, hundreds of people took to the streets of the capital, Niamey, and chanted "No coup d'etat" while marching in support of the president. Multiple rounds of gunfire that appeared to come from the presidential palace dispersed the demonstrators and sent people scrambling for cover. The international community strongly condemned the attempted seizure of power. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who spoke to Bazoum in the afternoon to express his full support and solidarity, issued a strong condemnation of the mutineers. The Secretary General is deeply disturbed by the detention of President Mohammed Bazoum and is concerned for his safety and well-being. That's what Antonio Guterres' spokesperson, Stéphane Dujarric, said. Guterres urged the immediate release of Bazoum without any conditions and called for an immediate end to all actions undermining democratic principles in Niger. The governments of France and the United States have also voiced concern and urged the participating guardsmen to change course. Bazoum's administration has made Niger a key Western partner in the fight against Islamic extremism in Africa's Sahel region. We strongly condemn any effort to detain or subvert the functioning of Niger's democratically elected government led by President Bazoum. That is what White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said. We specifically urge elements of the Presidential Guard to release President Bazoum from detention and refrain from violence. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, who was selected this month as the ECOWAS Commission's chairman, said the regional bloc's leadership will resist any attempt to unseat Niger's government.
We are very closely monitoring the situation and developments in Niger. I spoke with President Bazoum earlier this morning and made clear that the United States resolutely supports him as the democratically elected president of Niger. We call for his immediate release. We condemn any effort to seize power by force. We're actively engaged with the Niger government, but also with partners in the region and around the world. We'll continue to do so until the situation is resolved appropriately and peacefully.
Well, so strong condemnation of that military coup in Niger, and countries like the United States saying they are closely monitoring the developments in the African country. On that note, let's take another quick break here on Global Lens, but there's more on the other side.